All right, guys. Cellular respiration is the process by which organisms like ourselves, eukaryotic organisms, heterotrophs, things that have to eat other things, is the process by which we take the food that we eat and consume and break that food down into a usable form of energy. So we have an organism here, probably a squirrel or something similar to a squirrel. It is consuming the plant. The plant gives off photosynthesis, carries out that process, and shows us, again, reviews where the process takes place inside of the thylakoid membranes, which are located inside of the chloroplast. We have a mitochondria here. Why do we have that there? Because that's where cellular respiration takes place, in the mitochondrial membrane of organisms. Now, a lot of times students get confused because they think that cellular respiration doesn't take place in plants. That is incorrect. It does. Okay, cellular respiration takes place in both plants and animals. All right, so again, we have the mitochondrial membrane. Now, it has all these little folds in there, and the reason it has all those folds in there is because it allows the mitochondria to carry out the different aspects, the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, the two major components of cellular respiration, and in particular, oxidative respiration. So we have the inner membrane, outer membrane space, and that is where cellular respiration actually takes place. So we see the molecular formula of glucose, C6H12O6. Remember, glucose is a monosaccharide, a single sugar, or a monomer. Okay, monomers, remember, come together to form polymers. But look how much energy can be extracted from that glucose molecule. Only one. Now, it's very important to realize that glucose is not the only source of energy. We also get energy from proteins, from fats. Okay, so anything that has a calorie can provide energy for us. And it tells us the definition of what a calorie is. So this diagram is good because it shows us the overall picture of everything that happens in cellular respiration. Now, so we have the cytoplasm out here. We have the mitochondrial membrane on the inside. Glycolysis is the first part of the process. It occurs outside in the cytoplasm. It also does not require energy. So glucose goes in. Glucose is broken down into something called pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid is then going to be carried into the Krebs cycle. Now, the Krebs cycle is named after a gentleman named Hans Krebs, and it produces ATP as well. Lastly, we have the electron transport chain. Now, you're going to see later on that this part produces the most ATP out of all three of them. Again, we see that equation again, and if you were to flip it around, so to speak, you would have the equation for photosynthesis. So 6 molecules of oxygen with 1 of glucose will yield 6 carbon dioxides, 6 waters, and energy. Now we know that this result or this product is actually the reactants for photosynthesis. So again, if you flip it around and you go the other direction, you are actually giving us the equation for cellular respiration. Again, we saw the folds in the mitochondria in the first couple of slides. Well, the reason they exist is because both of these processes can take place simultaneously in their separation. So many different things, several different things, in particular, the process of cellular respiration can take place inside the mitochondria, separated by folds and within it. So it increases the surface area, allows more jobs to be done. Very similar, use the analogy of the fact that in this hallway we have several rooms that are separated by walls, etc., so that all the teachers in this hallway can conduct their classrooms and carry out what they need to do. Okay? Again, glycolysis produces ATP, Krebs cycle does also, and the electron transport chain. Okay, so glycolysis does not require oxygen. We have glucose, remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 carbon molecules. Now, actually, there are 4 ATPs that are being present here in glycolysis, but 2 have to be used. What happened to the ATPs? Why do we have this molecule there? Yes?
Because the phosphate hasn't formed with it yet.
Phosphate got extracted. It lost a phosphate. Now it becomes ADP. Okay? This is no longer glucose. It is now pyruvic acid. Okay? When you add energy to it, it becomes pyruvic acid. The most important aspect of glycolysis is the fact that, and it's a very ancient process, it even precludes us discovering what cellular respiration is, and even bacteria and other organisms use this process to generate small amounts of ATP, and that is the benefit. Without oxygen being present, it can generate small amounts of ATP, and some of the first organisms on the planet, this is how they were able to develop their energy before oxygen was prominent in our atmosphere. Okay, this just goes over how the energy is passed on using these energy-carrying molecules. NADH is an energy-carrying molecule. It's going to carry its electrons to the next phase. It gives electrons to pyruvic acid, again, which is going to be used in the next phase of cellular respiration. And it's converted back too. Okay, so it's used, reused to help supply ATP in the process of glycolysis. And this process falls under fermentation, which does not require energy. We're going to go over 2 types of fermentation that exist in organisms. Okay, some of the products that we enjoy, that we eat, that we drink as adults, beverages, beer, is made from the process of alcoholic fermentation, yeast, and other small organisms, okay? So it's basically a byproduct. Dough for pizza, bread. These are all products that are produced through a process that we discovered happens with bacteria. So alcoholic fermentation. Again, fermentation does not require oxygen at all. We carry out lactic acid fermentation. And again, I pointed it out in our interest grabber. And whenever we exercise, and especially when we first start exercising after a while, lactic acid probably is going to build up more quickly in our muscles, okay? Because our body has to convert that lactic acid. Oxygen comes in, water comes in, and we have to convert it. But until then, until we convert that, we will experience some soreness and stuff like that. So we carry out lactic acid fermentation, and other organisms carry out alcoholic fermentation. Okay, on this slide, you probably want to put something oxidative respiration, okay? Because these 2 processes will only occur if oxygen is present. If oxygen is not present, you won't get to this part. So oxygen being present produces more ATP than when oxygen is not being present. All of these 2 things, they both occur in the mitochondria and the mitochondrial membrane. Krebs cycle, very similar to the glycolysis part, whereby you're only producing a minimal amount of ATP. However, look how much ATP is produced by the electron transport chain. Okay? The other thing that is produced there is carbon dioxide as well. Okay? Okay guys, these are just some videos that you can look at. We've used Crash Course before, and we use Bozeman or Bosman Science as well, sometimes Khan Academy. But these are some things that can help you with the process if you need additional information.